Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
How's it going, everybody? My name is BrandonLee Cierley.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Of course. From Tacoma, Washington originally. Grew up in Spano Puyallup. I live in Portland now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a saxophone player. I went to PLU, got my exercise science degree and music minor, and I'm a composer and saxophonist around the area.
Oh, damn. So your major was in science?
Exercise science, yeah.
Oh, okay,
So I'm also a personal trainer. I've been doing that for about 8 years,
gotcha.
So.
Explains the physique. Yeah.
I mean, sure.
And what got you into music initially?
So growing up, my mom, she's a school teacher, but she was very good. She's a very good singer, and she played flute. And I don't know, just growing up listening to good music. Didn't really get into jazz till later, but we always had good music playing around in the house. And I just remember 5th grade, I played the cello for 4 or 5 months, and I really didn't like it. And then at my school that I went to, at elementary school, we could only be in band in 6th grade. So when 6th grade, 2006 rolled around, we went into the gymnasium and we got to try different instruments. And something gravitated me towards the saxophone. Maybe hearing Grover Washington Jr. and, maybe Kenny G growing up, they play that stuff at my house. But
okay.
I don't know. Yeah, everybody has this crazy story of how their dads are. I was just I gravitated towards saxophone.
I mean, and you said your mom played flute?
Yeah, she played flute. I graduated from the same college that my mom went to and my older brother went to. So, she was in the band there, and she would play and sing, growing up. So, I don't know, maybe that had a...
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure there was some underlying influence in there somewhere.
Yeah, probably 100%.
Yeah. And when did you move out to this area?
So I moved to Portland in 2020. So, smack in the middle.
I was going to say, right. Yeah, right. Oh, man, so many people got hit with that right at that time.
Yeah. And so I, decided to put out my first album with a bunch of producers and musicians, Florida, Canada, Portland, Seattle, all that. And a guest of your show before, Machado Majiga. Shout out Machado, man. I've known him for about 14, 15 years.
Cool. Incredible musician.
Yeah, he's in my band. He's incredible. But, he was the one that kind of pushed me, and he was like, hey, man, you should come out to Portland. There's a lot of places to play. You do really good. I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know, man. And he would just keep asking. And once I released, it was July of 2020, I released my first album, Here Comes a New Challenger, video game reference, versus Capcom.
Hell yeah.
I released it. It was doing good. He's like, I think you should move to Portland. I was like, screw it. Let's do it. So then I just did the leap of faith and been out here since.
Oh yeah. That's rad.
Yeah.
And before we officially get into more of what you're doing in the present day, I do have a couple of foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
The first album? Man, I don't even think I can remember. Maybe from... This is kind of a deep. I think I bought a Little Romeo album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a show first.
From like, I watched Nickelodeon growing up, and like, I think, I want to say it was a Lil Romeo album. It was Romeo Land on CD. I think my mom still has it at her house.
Hell yeah.
Somewhere. But I think that was the first album that I actually bought that I could, like, it's like CD that I actually bought.
Yeah, that's a quality first
That's
choice.
like, that's a first, man.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody has ever said they bought a Lil Romeo album.
No, like I said, it's the first time it's the first time I've heard that name in years. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to? That was like specifically one you wanted to go to.
Man, that's a tough one. Growing up, I didn't really go to any like shows. It wasn't until I think that like the very first show like I really wanted to go to was in college. Like I graduated 2016. 2012, 2013 was when Drake came for Nothing Was the Same. So I would put that shit on repeat. And so one of my close friends, my roommate at the time, like it was me, him, and his girlfriend, and we went to see him at the Tacoma Dome, and that was fire. He brought out Jhené Aiko.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah,
that was I think that was like the first big concert like that. I like was like, yeah, let's go. Like,
Yeah, I mean that. Definitely a solid experience, regardless of when it happened.
It was fun, man. It was so fun.
Hell yeah. And then before we officially get into the now, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
I think in college. So like I started playing in 2006, 2007 is when I, was in junior high and I was in the jazz band and I was in the classical band there too. Took lessons, I always felt like I had to compete with somebody.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and I played sports growing up all up until college. And when I got into college, it was like, okay, I need to either devote time to either try to play sports or do music and take it serious. And so I was just like, okay, like I want to do the music stuff. Like this is what I want to do. And then honestly, like the biggest moment for me was like 2018, 2019, 2020. Just practicing a bunch and then putting that first album out in 2020. I was like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it even more. So, that was just kind of the turn. I love sports. Like I really wanted to do it. Like I was really short growing up, and then I got taller in college. I was like, bro, where was this when growing up? Like, so...
Hey, better late than never.
Yeah, so it was just like, I think that was the defining moment. I knew I wanted to do music at a capacity, but like, just that before COVID era was like the era I was like, all right, like this is what I want to do. And then like I always tell people COVID was like a blessing in disguise for me as a musician because all we had was time.
Yeah. That has actually been kind of a recurring bit as well on the show. That seems to be the window of time where music kind of flourished for a lot of people.
Yeah, because it's like you had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You had nothing else to do. And if you wanted to get after it, like you were going to put the time in. And that's the time that, if musicians took advantage of that time for what they wanted to do, great, because they saw the yield for it. If you took that for granted, that's never, knock on wood, that might never happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
In our lifetime.
Well, let's hope it doesn't.
Yeah, right.
For many reasons, but it's definitely one of those times where if you wanted to be creative or learn how to do a thing or grow in something, you had all of the time in the world.
All the time. Now we're back to our regular scheduled program.
Yep.
And it's
very much so.
Time is so precious and valuable, and as a musician, you have to take advantage of as much time as you get.
Very much so.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before I know I said we were going to move into it now, but every now and then this gets brought up on the show, and I always try to dig into this when it happens.
Okay.
Because you did sports and music. What were some of the similarities you found between the two?
Discipline. 100% discipline for sure. My dad used to coach me growing up, and my dad was a Seattle police officer and a Marine, so we were always we were always on that, and I'm very appreciative of that now because that's instilled in me as a grown up now. Yeah. But discipline and work ethic. Like we would talk about it later, but Kobe Bryant was one of my favorite sports players, basketball players growing up. So like, work ethic was a big thing, and he epitomized that. So that, and also like the team effort, right? Like you can make music by yourself, but like the music that I make too, that's not just modern jazz, but it's like more like groove, lo-fi, whatever. You know, I assemble the Avengers in a sort because I want to work with producers that are good and that's their niche, and I'm cool. Let's bring you in.
Yeah.
Cool. Can I get live musicians? I want to put that in there. Cool. Let's bring you in. Right. And so like that team effort it was something big. And so I think that kind of shaped who I am as a musician now. But yeah, I think those are the similarities for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Like I said, whenever the lines intersect, I always like to dig in on that a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
But now let's officially get into you in the present day.
Okay.
We're going to get what I think is a super easy one out of the way first, though.
Sure.
How'd you pick the name?
The name of my music, like the name of me, like me?
Yeah.
Like my name, like my actual name, like BrandonLee Cierley.
Okay, so it is just your actual name.
It's just my name.
Okay.
Yeah, like people like pick different band names. Like in college, we had a band called 322. That was the first band that I was in. Shout out to 322, yo. They were made of a bunch of my friends in the jazz program, and we were like, let's play out more. And so 322 is actually the practice room that we practice in at college at PLU. So that was the name. And then after a while, I was just like, when I moved, and I was just like, I don't want to have that name anymore. Like that time period of my life, we gotta progress, move forward. Yeah. That was a great time, but we're gonna leave that pause button on that, and we're gonna just go under my name. Like why not? So I just went under my name, BrandonLee Cierley, So, I don't like putting quartet after that. It's whatever. It's just my name. Whoever I assemble for that is what it is,
And when you're performing, will you like have different people with you most times, or is it always a pretty fixed group?
So that's a good question. Like everybody asks me this. So it varies. So right now in Portland, I have like 2-3 different bands that I play with, and it depends on the vibe of what I want for that show. Right? Yeah, I just got done playing with, some modern jazz cats who can also do the groove stuff. And then like if I want to do a groove heavy set, I got my groove people for that. Shout out to all those guys. And then in Seattle, when I go play in Seattle, sometimes I'll meld the two. They try to bridge the gap. I'll bring some Portland cats, and then I'll bring the Seattle homies together.
Gotcha.
But it just depends on the sound that I want, and it depends on what we're playing for, what the vibe we're going for.
Okay, so you have a small roster, and you'll kind of curate it per gig.
Yeah, and it's like my roommate plays drums, and he's very good, and so like it's nice to have him around the house because we can practice and do whatever then. And then Machado's in my band too. So yeah, it's just kind of a cast of different, and it's just nice to have a roster because I can go, cool, I want you on this gig, right?
Or like if you're like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. If you have like 3 of the 5 people that are like, I can't do it, you're like, well then 2 of the 5 will do.
100%. That happens quite a bit because everybody's trying to work. Everybody's in their own bands. They're
oh, trust me, nobody knows scheduling multiple people more than me. I feel ya.
100%.
Oh, yeah. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process a little bit.
Sure.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're starting right at the beginning. Right, so when you get inspired, you're ready to make music.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
So like for me, it depends. Like, inspiration will come from movies, feelings, pop culture, people that I know, like experiences I've gone through, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And how I start is sometimes I'll take it on the saxophone and like play an idea, and then I'll hit my voice recorder and record it, come back to it later, build upon that. Sometimes, like I'm not the best piano player, I can plunk things out on there. I'll do that, voice recorder, or I'll be driving. Like a lot of the stuff from my albums and songs are like voice, and I still have them, voice memos of me just like singing an idea. Driving from like Portland to back to Tacoma, just to hang out, with my friends. I'll just be something will come into my head, and I'm stop my music and I'll record it. And again, like I said, come back to it later and go, okay, that's a cool idea to start with. Yeah. And then I go from there.
Okay. And then when you're writing, do you ever like bring it to anybody in your group, or do you usually like flesh out an idea fully and then like kind of decide who you would want when it comes time to like track it?
It's varied. So sometimes I'll have, I'll take it to a rehearsal and be like, hey, what do you guys think of this so far?
Okay.
We go, oh, that's cool. Like, what if we did this? Yeah. Or I'll flesh out a whole idea, like a whole song. And I'm like, okay, let's play this. Let me hear how it sounds with a full band. That way I can go, let the control save. I really like this. I don't need to change it. Or I go, this didn't work very well. It's not because they did played it badly.
Yeah, just once you hear it in real life.
Like,
yeah,
in
it
my
doesn't
head, it might have
translate.
sounded really good, but like when it's like audible, like it's like, okay, maybe that didn't work. Let me go back to the drawing board and fix a few things.
Yeah.
So that's been very helpful for me as well.
Okay.
I'm not a good, like, I can't make beats very well or producer. So like, you know, yeah, it just, it depends on like for the modern jazz setting and even like the groove stuff that I do. It's nice to like take it to the band and have whoever is on the hit try to play it, you know, in rehearsals and then go from there.
Oh yeah. And when it comes time to like get ready to perform a track, how long does it usually take you to feel comfortable like being able to like bring it out?
Honestly, like if I write it and we have, because all the musicians that I hire like are professionals, they do this, right? So when I give that to them and we can rehearse it a couple times and really feel good as a unit, why not play it? Let's do it.
Okay.
But for me, sometimes I get into my own head. Like actually, for example, and I'm okay with saying this because I'm sure other people feel the same way. And, you know, I just played at the 1905, 2 sold out sets in Portland. And, you know, one of my songs I wrote for Tetsuo from Akira. And it's called Tetsuo's Rising. That's going to be on the album. And we practiced it like once. And I was like, you know what? You know, they sounded great. But I was in my own head. I was like, you know, I don't want to make anybody sound bad or look bad for playing this. And so I cut it from the set last second. And again, like they were like, oh, like, let's play that. Like, it's fine. But I got into my own head. I was like, well, I don't feel very comfortable. And if I don't feel comfortable, I don't want to be like, oh, let's play it and make people sound bad.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I want to do. Like, I'd rather just be comfortable. And so that's something I'm working on right now where it's like, if I'm writing it and I feel good about it, let's do it. Like, I should just do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
The listeners don't have a clue, right? Of like what the song, unless it's egregiously out, they don't really know what's going on in the song.
Yeah.
They just go off of vibes and energy, right? Only I can be the one that's like, oh, I messed up here and here and here, and that could cloud the whole night.
Yeah, no,
I don't want that.
It's a pretty big duality of the decision of like when to bring, especially new stuff, like
100%.
how to put it out there, how long it takes for you like feel comfortable to the point where you know it's gonna go well, and then even once it's out there and you know you can't like talk about it at like you're like, hey, next song has to happen after this. It only can happen once. But like, you know, once you've done it once, you've done it once. And I think actually on Machado's episode, he speaks on that. He's like, you just gotta put stuff out there. So and that's something I really respect and hold to. So, you know, I think you should do it on the next one.
Yeah, we will for sure. Like, you know, it's a cool song. I really like it, and we'll do it for sure.
Oh yeah,
100%.
oh yeah. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about some of your music. So I jumped onto ye old Spotify.
Okay,
and you've got. I didn't even try to count it, but you have an insane amount of music on there, going all the way back to like 2018. And I mean, just each track really kind of has its own feel, which I really appreciate. And I mean, you know, mostly it's instrumental, but some of your early stuff does even have vocals on it. So like, I mean, the earliest version of Feeling Like Kobe, Smooth Ride in particular was a really cool track. Yeah. And one of my personal favorites was Odyssey. I really
like Odyssey, man.
I quite a bit.
Yeah, that's not even my track. That's shout out Johnny Tobin. We'll talk about him later, but he's from Vancouver. He plays keys, producer. That's his song.
Okay.
And then we got K-Pop from Canada as well. I rapped on it. Yeah, that song is so fire.
It's a cool jam. Yeah. But I mean, you know, a lot of your other music is really cool as well. Like in the realm of instrumental, like Sitting in the Sun Fur. That's a really fun one. And All to You. Those two really, they kind of tied for like some of my favorite tracks as well, which I think Jet Fuel J being on both of them kind of may have had something to do with it. Yeah,
Jay, man.
I don't know why those two both jumped out at me, but he was on both of those. So
he's the producer.
Oh, okay.
He's from Toronto, actually.
Hell yeah.
We've done a lot of me and him have done a lot of music together in the past year. And like the power of social media sometimes. Like I met him through Instagram. He hit me up and we just been doing music. We got another track coming out in a couple weeks.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah. So he's great, man. So like all those guys, like, you know, again, most of those tracks like are producers that I work with. Like you mentioned Smooth Ride. That's Hunter Love from Vancouver. He actually lives down the street.
Oh, cool.
Producer, works with Farnell Newton for Formation Sound. He's a producer. We got K-Pop from Canada on that one, and then my girlfriend actually sings on that as well.
Oh, cool. Hell yeah, I dig that. I dig that.
And like she's a choir teacher. She's a great singer. I was like, why not?
Man, you just have music all around you, don't you?
I try to, man. Like that's the vibe. And then like, you listen to my instrumental stuff. We have the modern jazz stuff in there too. Like Camaraderie, that was my second album. I actually sing on my first album, Here Comes a New Challenger, on Summer Love.
Oh, exciting.
You sing in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thanks for checking out my music.
No, definitely. And, let's go ahead. Let's take a moment and let's talk about your newest EP.
Sure.
So it's New Horizons.
Yeah.
It just came out. Yeah. And in the realm of today's, when people are watching it, it would have been like a week ago.
Right. A week ago. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, first of all, it's really cool. I mean, it featured I Love Brandon and Johnny Tobin and Chris Ramirez. And I got to say, it's
And Posey. Don't forget about Posey.
Oh, Posey. Yeah, sorry.
Posey.
Didn't make it onto my list. My bad. And I got to say, it's a really solid experience.
Thank you.
It's super full, not just sonically, like mix-wise, it's awesome. Like I always listen to stuff on like obnoxiously better things than I need to. And it just... As like an immersive experience, it's great, but also musically, because it's only the 2 tracks, but they both feel, first of all, very individual to each other. They don't feel like you're kind of like just playing through, and they each have their own kind of their vibe, their setting, which actually lines up with their names really well.
Right.
But also there's no overly repetitive elements. Which I think for this late in the game, for how many tracks you have out, that's something that really stood out to me about all of your music, is that as you listen to each song, the progression through evolves. It stays very like moving and organic and like almost fluid in just the way that it progresses. So I think it was cool that to be able to, because I listened to as many things of yours as I could and then went to the new EP, and it still felt very refreshing.
That's amazing to hear. Thank you for checking it out. Yeah, like I work with I Love Brandon a lot. Brandon Crumley from Florida. Same with Johnny Tobin. Like I call that like the power trio. Right? We've done a lot of music together, and I just started working with Posey, Rudy Klobas from Portland. We put out an EP together called Letters to Japan. He knows how I like my saxophone. He's a great producer. He played guitar on Stardust. But when we decided to do an EP together, we've done tracks, and I've been on Brandon's album. I've been on Johnny's stuff. They've been on my stuff. And I was like, let's just put out. I'm big right now into the two packs is what I call them.
Yeah, gotcha.
A lot of rappers do it. Like R&B.
Well, the singles movement right now is kind of a big thing.
It's big, man. Yeah. And I think it's important because it just gives your listener like little nuggets here and there, here and there, here and there. And so we're like, you know what? Like, let's just do a 2-pack, right? Yeah. Brandon produced the beats on there. He gave them to me. He's like, here's what I'm thinking. I go, okay, cool. Let me get the Avengers together. Let's get some live instruments on here. And then that's really what it was. New Horizons is basically like a kind of a time lapse, I think, of a day, of like what a normal day would be like. It's at the end of the summer EP, morning vibes. It hits you with the upbeat stuff, and then you get that kind of like sleepy lo-fi, medium tempo that is Stardust at the end of the night. So it's like, it was a cool concept that we kind of figured out on the way out of releasing it.
Hell yeah. No, I dig that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course.
And also, just because you mentioned it, oh my God, I forgot. I'm sorry. Was it Letters to Japan?
Letters to Japan. Me and Posey.
That EP almost made it onto like my list of things.
Really?
If y'all haven't checked it out yet, big fan. I really enjoyed the whole thing.
Man. I appreciate it.
But now let's go ahead. Let's talk about some new music that you're working on. So you said, you've got an album that you're cooking at the moment. What can we look forward to in it? What are some of the things that we can be excited about?
Sure. So first of all, I just recorded a live studio session for the 4th time over at KNKX Studios in Seattle.
Nice.
It used to be KPLU when I was in college, and they've known me from when I started to where I am now, so they had me back out there. That'll be out soon, but we did 3 tracks for my album there, so you'll be able to hear it first.
Oh, cool.
There, if you come to live shows, you'll be able to hear them too. Right now, I'm working on raising funds for making the album go on GoFundMe. So, I got that running if anybody wants to donate. But yeah, like I'm going to record it with local musicians in Portland. My sophomore album, I did a mix of half Portland musicians, half Seattle musicians, on Camaraderie. This one's going to be straight Portland because that's where I live now. I have a plethora of people around. It's going to be all in-house, really. Portland musicians, Portland studio at Anjuna. I have my buddy Cole Ryan being the producer, the engineer there. I'm going to send it out to mixing, a guy that used to live in Portland, mastering person in Portland. And then I'm using like Atomic Discs from Salem, Oregon. So everything is in-house on this one.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So that's, I don't have a name for the album yet. I'm still trying to figure out. I have like one or two more things to finish, like song wise. We're going to feature one song from Machado on there that he wrote. But yeah, it's right now the concept, and I haven't really told anybody this until, live if you come to a show, but like recorded. Every song that I've written is dedicated to someone in my life that has made an impact or something that has inspired me. So, for example, Akira Toriyama, who, Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, very much.
I wrote a song when he passed away. I was like, man, like I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z with my brother, like Toonami days, right? And I'm 30, and I was like, man, like this is a great show. Like it was a part of my childhood. So right now I finished a song called Nimbus.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. And like another one, I did one for a video game, Ghost of Tsushima. My favorite video. I finished it like last year, man. It was, oh my gosh, that game is great. So I wrote a song called Reflect On from that because that's a prompt in the game where you go around and write haikus. And the title of it was Reflect On, and it gives you prompts. And then you talk about, I was like, yo, that's a good song title. That's a good song title. So yeah, like there's going to be a lot. I got a couple more things. I'm going to have again, Portland musicians. So I'm looking forward to it. I just need that little financial assistance. I'm an independent artist. Yes, I do work with the label Lo-Fi Jazz Soul. But again, like I have to fund all of this. So, I need that little extra helping hand to help out,
No, totally.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be something link related down at the bottom that y'all can donate to if you would like.
Yes.
Now let's take a moment and let's zoom out. Let's look at kind of music as a whole.
Yeah.
What are some either like new music in general, or just at the very least music that's new to you that you enjoy and you're finding inspiration in at the moment?
Right now, like, I listen to I'm a big 90s hit, right? So I listen to all the R&B, like the older stuff, the newer stuff, like I love listening to Brent Faiyaz, love listening to Leon Thomas. He's the new producer that's out. Braxton Cook, that's my guy. Shout out Braxton with his new EP and just all his music. And then I'm on a big Walter Smith III kick. If you're a saxophone player, you'll know who that is, but he just released a brand new album. Yesterday, but when you see this a week ago, on the same day I released New Horizons, he just released a new record on Blue Note, and it's amazing. Like I love his playing; it speaks to me so much. Like I've met him, I've taken lessons from him. He's the nicest guy, but his playing just gives me, and his compositions they're so good. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I might not know what's going on like in the actual song, whatever, like form wise or whatever. It's just beautiful music, and that just gives me inspiration to like go practice, to write better, like to write more. And so yeah, that's like the big kick I've been on. I think, what else have I been listening to? Yeah, like I said, I go back to the oldies like John Coltrane, Mr. Gordon, Miles Davis. I still listen to all that stuff, and like I have like a good mixing pot. Like I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. Like I don't just listen to jazz. Like I listen to everything.
You listen to everything. Yeah,
I listen to everything. So it really depends on the day too.
I gotcha.
I might be in it, like if I'm chilling at the crib, I might be like, all right, like let's put on some kind of blue or whatever all that I have on vinyl. Or I might be like, let me put on this Purple Rain by Prince, or let me listen to some, NWA or Wu-Tang, so it really just, it varies for me.
Oh yeah. And just because you don't just pull inspiration from music, what are some of the more like even current like pop culture things that you're finding inspiration in?
Yeah, like movies.
Yeah, like movies, games.
Yeah, like
animes,
movies, games. Yeah,
general.
like I pull from everything. Like like Akira, I wrote a song, Tetsuo's Rising, because I watched that, and like that was like probably what, we talked about it earlier. That's probably one of the best movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
That and like video games, Ghost of Tsushima, it just depends, it depends. I just kind of grab from anything that kind of inspires me in the moment.
Gotcha.
I'm like, oh, this has played an impact on me somehow.
Yeah. Now, for that inspiration, I guess, do you find, because, like Akira, the soundtrack in particular is phenomenal.
It's ridiculous.
Like, I imagine, same with like, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the game already.
Tsushima, yeah.
Tsushima. Is it the music that inspires you, or is it the actions? Like, is there like part of the narrative even?
Both.
Okay.
Both. The story, music, all of it, really. Like, it just, Studio Ghibli films too, like that music is beautiful.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, like, Joe Hisashi is amazing, and like all that music, like I take inspiration from anything and everything, man. Like whatever in that moment, if I'm like, yo, this is hitting something in me that I have to like figure out how I can be creative, or like how that inspired me to keep writing something, I'm going to use it.
Hell yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing. All right. Now, with that being said, we've got one last question to go in this middle portion.
Okay.
And this is probably the densest question in the interview.
Love it.
But we've talked a lot about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions.
Yep.
But when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Yeah, it gives me like a sense of belonging, right? Like, I can always, bad day, good day, whatever, I can always turn to music, right? Because it's a non-verbal art form, right? So whatever emotion sometimes, even like, for me, I'm working to get better, but like, showing certain emotions are kind of hard because it puts you in a vulnerable state, which people don't like to do, right? Even though it's a good character builder, they don't like to do it because it's uncomfortable. And so I can turn to music and put those feelings and emotions into music, whatever I write, whatever I play live, whatever, it's given that back to me to where I can always turn, I can always turn to it when I need it. It's a good outlet. It's like therapy, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people can probably relate to that. Like, it's this type of therapy that's just like, sometimes after a practice session, I'm just like, man, I feel good. Like, this is great. Like, once you get those hurdles of obstacles, if you're like, oh, like I can't, or I'm having troubles with this certain concept, right? And you finally crack the code, like a little bit, because we're all still students of music. We're all still students. We're never going to master it. If you master it, then you're in the wrong business, right? So, but when you start to crack little things and take little pieces and you're starting to get it, it's the best feeling in the world, So, I'll always be thankful for music. Like, I can always turn to it for anything,
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Love it.
And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Okay.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Oh, man. That is a tough question. But one, I've already worked with the homie Braxton Cook. That's who I wanted to work with, homie. But right now, Quincy Jones, man.
Okay, hell yeah.
Quincy Jones. I don't care if it's like a orchestrated orchestral piece or whatever, or anything that he does, I would love to be a part. Like, Quincy Jones is a master and a magician when it comes. I mean, the dude made Thriller and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So like, all that stuff is great. And so, I would love to work with Quincy Jones in any whatever he wants. If he was to ever be like, hey, I want to hire you, use and abuse it. What do you want?
Hell yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, whatever you want.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, and this may be a little tougher to answer, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Oh, man. There's two, actually. Omari Jazz. If you haven't checked Omari Jazz out, he's awesome, man. He's a big anime nerd, too, and he loves that shit. And I've met him a couple of times. The nicest guy. I love his music. It's great, and he's worked with a bunch of my friends. I would love to do something with him. And then Quickly.
Oh,
They're producing.
hell yeah.
Yeah, like
That's such a good answer.
yeah, I've met him before, and he's great. His vision of music is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
he's about to go on tour. My buddy Zach Schleicher is in the band, plays bass for him. That's going on tour. But yeah, like I'd love to do some music with him, and there's so many people in Portland that are awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to connect with, since I'm not from there, and I've only been there almost 4 years now. So it's like, I have like a small group of people that I like to perform and just kind of keep close with. But yeah, those two I would love to work with. 100%.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully you guys check this out. Hit me up.
I was going to say, everybody, you know what to do. At them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen.
Let's make it happen.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limit, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show. And it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
One place. I would say Blue Note Tokyo.
Okay.
Blue Note in Tokyo.
Hell yeah.
People were probably thinking Village Vanguard. Yeah, I would love that. But, being of Japanese descent, I haven't been to Japan yet, but I would love to go. Hopefully going next year, I would love to go play there and bring my music. That's actually, Japan is one of the highest stream place, like that my music gets streamed. If you look
cool.
at my analytics, like Japan and then, everything else.
Damn. I cannot say the same, unfortunately. But
Yeah, so like I've been signed to like a Japanese like compilation record out there multiple times, and so yeah, I would just love to go there. Like I have some family that I haven't seen since I was very, very little. So yeah, I would love to play there. Like hopefully we can make that happen.
Hell yeah.
sometime.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to that. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions. If you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday.
Yeah.
Who would you want an album from?
Let's make it even harder. Give me jazz. You want jazz or do you want like R&B? Like what?
You know what? We're going to do one of each.
Okay, let's start with the jazz.
Go for it.
John Coltrane. I would love to hear one.
Okay.
If I could hear one more record from him, I would love it. He's one of my favorite saxophone players ever.
Yeah.
For R&B, I would say, oh man, this is tough. Like, this is very, very tough. It's a tie between, for me, it's a tie between like current Frank Ocean. Listen to Frank Ocean. Tough.
Yeah, Frank, we need another one.
I need you to drop something and stop playing with our emotions. I just need you to drop it. Frank Ocean, or this one might be kind of controversial, but Michael Jackson. Like, I was talking to Machado about this the other day. Like, in our time, is there any other musician that you could go, yeah, I'm going to listen to their, or like for generations to come that will be listening to their music?
Yeah.
Right? Michael Jackson is one, because you'll never get anybody like Michael Jackson. I don't care what anybody says. And maybe Stevie Wonder of this time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's got to be, and it is a very controversial topic.
100%.
But the reality, I mean, people didn't stop listening to R. Kelly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, his is confirmed.
100%.
Like, you know what I mean? But like, even further past that, when you separate the artist from the art, Michael Jackson's music, just catalog wise,
right,
it's immense. It's well written. It became the soundtrack. I mean, he was the soundtrack for Free Willy.
Yeah.
Like, I could be
Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, there are only a handful of people that ever achieve that level of music.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, honestly, I would be curious to know what his music would have been like in a more like post-COVID world. You know what I mean? Like, what would an album have been like today?
Yeah. And we'll never know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I understand the issues with the answer, but like aside, the music was powerful, and the voice of multiple generations.
Yeah, and that's a whole another topic for another day.
Yeah.
The separating the art from the.
Oh yeah, that is a world that I can't even begin to touch on without making it a whole long episode.
Right. Yeah, we could do like 3 episodes on it.
Probably. But with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Sure.
What could we look forward to between, let's say, now and April?
So I am playing a show October 12th. It'll be like my official fundraising show. I'm double billing with Rob Arousal is what he goes by at the Jack London. And then, I have some live shows coming up throughout that time. And then hopefully I will have my record recorded by then, and I'll have a single out before that. I'm hoping to put, if everything goes right, if I just applied for a grant, if everything goes right, I want to have the album out by like March.
Okay.
But I want to have a couple singles out before that.
Gotcha.
So, and then I'm working on an album with Posey. And we are doing an actual album. The EP Letters to Japan was only 3 songs. We're going to do a full album. Just probably a lot more music coming out and live shows. And the thing is, like, come enjoy live music. If you're seeing this, like, come enjoy live music. We need more people out here. Like, support your local musicians and artists, and just come hang and just have that experience.
Yeah, hell yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, and then for this next one, go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at BrandonLee_Cierley. BrandonLee is my whole first name. You can find me on Spotify, any of your streaming platforms, Facebook, and then at BrandonLeeCierley.com.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, like shout out to mom, dad, like brother, sister, my family. Shout out to the Machado. Shout out to my Portland homies, Posey. I love Brandon from Florida, Johnny Tobin. And thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
All right. And with that being said, we've got one last question to go.
I'm ready.
Before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Sounds good.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Awesome.
But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
That's tough. I'm vanilla sometimes. Like, I've found records now that like my friends have showed me back in the day that I was just like, whatever. And now I listen to it, I'm like, yo, this is fire. Like, before I answer it, but like Baby Be Mine off of Thriller, like, I'm like, oh my God, this song is so fire with the key changes. And my friends are like, bro, you never heard this? I was like, no, man, I was just listening to the main
hits. Yeah.
It's fire. So I don't know if this is the greatest question for me, but I mean, for me, one album that I think like everybody should just listen to is, this is people are going to be like, dude, like everybody knows about this record, but like the Love Supreme, John Coltrane, like,
okay.
Like that is one, even if you're not a jazz fan,
yeah,
it is so spiritual and it just hits different. It hits different, right? It's just, when I first heard that record, I was like, this is just something I've never heard before, like a saxophone player do, and it just be nice. It's just so beautiful. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I guess quick little side story. Like I was in college and, I engaged in some extracurriculars, and I went back to my dorm room and I just remember putting my headphones in and Love Supreme came on and I listened to that thing and I've never heard music sound better than that. And to this day, when I listen to that record still, it's so beautiful. And like, I think people should check it out. Like, people might not say that's a deep cut, right? But it's something for me that if you have never listened to it, just
definitely take the time to. That is one of those for sure.
He was beyond his time, and so hopefully
that's a great rec. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, but with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah,
appreciate it. It was so fun.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm BrandonLee Cierley.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Jamming.